Okay, I'm gonna start with a little anecdote. In 1991, an accidental fire was started in Corsicana, Texas. However, Cameron Ted Wilmingham was accused for intentionally burning down the house and actually killing his three children. But however, he was innocent, and after his plea of innocence and years of like at least like 2 years, he was sentenced to be executed. However, 2 years after his execution, they found out that he was in fact innocent. Well, right now I'm saying that there are many considerable things wrong with a death penalty. I'm going to talk about 3 problems since I don't really have a lot of time. And the first problem is that it does not reduce crime rate. The second problem is that it costs more than the life sentence without parole. And the third problem is that there are many biases in the justice system. Okay, and the first problem about that it does not cost more than about the cost. Many people might think that the death penalty might cost less than the life sentence. Actually, it's not. In 2000, the U.S. homicide rate was actually 2.8 times higher than Canada's, which does not have death penalty. And in the last decade compared to 2006, homicide rate in death penalty states was actually 60% higher than non-death penalty states. And 20 states that have like the highest murder rate actually have a death penalty. And in a 10-year period, beginning like in 1975 through 1985, almost twice as many law enforcement were killed in death penalty states instead of non-death penalty states. So here, in fact, death penalty doesn't really have any effect on the crime rate. And the second problem is that it costs more than a life sentence. It actually costs about $90,000 more to house a death warrant convict than a regular inmate. And I'm talking about like for each inmate. And why does it cost a lot? Well, it usually costs. I mean, there's an estimate that the investigation can last about 3 to 5 times longer, and the investigation can frequently last about 2 years. And usually this includes visiting experts such as mental professionals, polygraphers, medical experts, forensic scientists, and jury consultants. And also, usually they add to the cost. The third and last problem that I'm going to talk to you guys about is that there are biases in the justice system. The first bias is that it's economical bias. Almost all defendants cannot really afford their own attorney, and usually the government is nice enough to give them an attorney, but usually, according to the National Journal, it reviewed capital cases in 6,000 states, and they have reported that they are often ill-trained, unprepared, and grossly underpaid. While the wealthy people who can actually own their own counsel, they usually are spared from the death penalty, even no matter how heinous their crimes can be. And usually the poor people don't really have the same opportunity to save their lives. The second type of bias I'm going to talk about is racial bias. For example, African Americans, they constitute about 12% of the U.S. population, and somehow they make up 35% of the death row inmates. And that's a quite big number for just 12%. So here you can see that there's a bias. Because, and 96% of studies examining the relationship between the race and the death row. They saw that there's a pattern between the race of the victim, of the defendant, and the race of the victim. And for example, if you don't understand, is that in Florida, usually the odds of receiving death sentence is actually 4.8 times higher if the victim was white than if the victim was black. So here you can see that there's a racial bias, and it's also fair, and that the cost, it actually costs more than the death sentence, and that it doesn't really deter crime. So in fact, there are many problems in the death penalty. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for your patience. You need to project a little bit more. Your claim is kind of broad, but you did signpost the secondary claims pretty clearly. Sometimes the evidence that you're presenting on the supporting points doesn't seem like it's connected to that point. For instance, on the first point, it sounded like it was a cost issue, but all your argument was about deterrence, and it was a little bit confusing. You actually raised cost in 3 different places. You need to cite some of the sources a little bit more consistently. I thought you did that better in the second half of the speech than in the first half. All right, thank you. Goodbye. Don't forget we have a